Good evening, everybody. This is the What Can I Do podcast, Education Division, and I am back with the third segment in our course on liberty, where we started with the thinking of J.S. Mill and MLK and Mandela, and developed concepts, theories, and discussions from that. Tonight, I'm going to be reading the statement by Nelson Mandela from the dock at the opening of the defense case in the Rivonia trial, the Pretoria Supreme Court. For backgrounding, perhaps look it up and look up a little bit more about Mandela. Otherwise, I'm just going to dive right in and share his words. 20th of April, 1964. I am prepared to die. I am the first accused. I hold a bachelor's degree in arts and practiced as an attorney in Johannesburg for a number of years in partnership with Oliver Tambo. I am a convicted prisoner serving 5 years for leaving the country without a permit and for inciting people to go on strike at the end of May 1961. At the outset, I want to say that the suggestion made by the state in its opening that the struggle in South Africa is under the influence of foreigners or communists is wholly incorrect. I have done whatever I did, both as an individual and as a leader of my people, because of my experience in South Africa and my own proudly felt African background, and not because of what any outsider might have said. In my youth in the Transkei, I listened to the elders of my tribe telling stories of the old days. Amongst the tales they related to me were those of wars fought by our ancestors in defense of the fatherland. The names of the Dingane and Bambara, Hintsa and Makana, Skunthi, I'm sorry if I'm hurting some of these words, and Dalasile, Mashoishoi, and Sekukuni, were praised as the glory of the entire African nation. I hope then that life might offer me the opportunity to serve my people and make my own humble contribution to their freedom struggle. This is what has motivated me in all that I have done in relation to the charges made against me in this case. Having said this, I must deal immediately and at some length with the question of violence. Some of the things so far told to the court are true, and some are untrue. I do not, however, deny that I planned sabotage. I did not plan it in a spirit of recklessness, nor because I have any love of violence. I planned it as a result of a calm and sober assessment of the political situation that had arisen after many years of tyranny, exploitation, and oppression of my people by the whites. I admit immediately that I was one of the persons who helped to form Umkhonto we Sizwe, and that I played a prominent role in its affairs until I was arrested in August 1962. In the statement which I am about to make, I shall correct certain false impressions which have been created by state witnesses. Among other things, I will demonstrate that certain of the acts referred to in the evidence were not and could not have been committed by Umkhonto. I will also deal with the relationship between the African National Congress and Umkhonto, and with the part which I personally have played in the affairs of both organizations. I shall deal also with the part played by the Communist Party. In order to explain these matters properly, I will have to explain what Umkhonto set out to achieve, what methods it prescribed for the achievement of these objects, and why these methods were chosen. I will also have to explain how I became involved in the activities of these organizations. I deny that Umkhonto was responsible for a number of acts which clearly fell outside the policy of the organization and which have been charged in the indictment against us. I do not know what justification there was for these acts, but to demonstrate that they could not have been authorized by Umkhonto, I want to refer briefly to the roots and policies of the organization. I've already mentioned that I was one of the persons who helped form Umkhonto. I and the others who started the organization did so for two reasons. Firstly, we believed that as a result of government policy, violence by the African people had become inevitable, and that unless responsible leadership was given to canalize, C-A-N-A-L-I-Z-E, I don't like not knowing words. It means to direct a flow of water or resources and energy into a specific controlled channel. To canalize and control okay, so unless responsible leadership was given to canalize and control the feelings of our people, there would be outbreaks of terrorism which would produce an intensity of bitterness and hostility between the various races of this country, which is not produced even by war. Secondly, we felt that without violence, there'd be no way open to the African people to succeed in their struggle against the principle of white supremacy. Contrast this with Martin Luther King Jr.'s ideas, and you also can refer to the reading. I read his letter from Birmingham jail. All lawful modes of expressing opposition to this principle, the principle of white supremacy, had been closed by legislation, and we were placed in a position in which we had to either accept a permanent state of inferiority or to defy the government. We chose to defy the law. We first broke the law in a way which avoided any recourse to violence. And when this form was legislated against, and then the government resorted to a show of force to crush opposition to its policies, only then did we decide to answer violence with violence. Thinking about I'm thinking about the training that the civil rights movement offered, where they talked about if you can withstand a beating without resorting to violence yourself. I'm not particularly contrasting them because I don't know how long each movement went on and what was resolved without the violence. And so I don't want to compare them because they're just not the same. But I was interested in the different ways that violence has to be addressed one way or another in order to take off the yoke of opposition or push back on it. But the violence which we chose to adopt was not terrorism. We who formed Umkhonto were all members of the African National Congress and had behind us the ANC tradition of nonviolence and negotiation as a means of solving political disputes. We believe that South Africa belongs to all the people who live in it, not to one group, be it black or white. We did not want an interracial war and tried to avoid it to the last minute. If the court is in doubt about this, it will be seen that the whole history of our organization bears out what I've said and what I will subsequently say when I describe the tactics which Umkhonto decided to adopt. I want, therefore, to say something about the African National Congress.